Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel where we talk all things finance and investing. Today's video, I'm going to tackle the age-old question, and that is, should you put more money first into your mortgage through an overpayment, for example, or should you take that money and actually put it into your pension first? Which should you prioritize, mortgage versus pension? That's the subject of today's video. Let's get into it. Okay, so I get this question a lot from clients, friends, family members, people who just want a little bit of advice. Maybe they get a bonus, a bit of extra money coming from somewhere, and which should they prioritize? I can tell you honestly, through my near 20 years working here in the great city of London, a lot of people that I know at work and whatnot always tended to prioritize the mortgage. There's just something about prioritizing property here in the UK and less so into a pension, into the stock market through a pension and things like that. In fact, I remember going to meetings with my company where they would have the pension provider come in and educate us on pension investing and everything like that. And sometimes I would be the only person in my team attending this, and it absolutely blew me away. Why? Because my company offered a 10% company match. So whatever I put in out of my salary into my pension, my company was willing to match that up to a maximum of 10% of my basic salary. And that was an extremely generous plan, which I decided to take full advantage of. But a lot of my colleagues did not. They prioritized paying down the mortgage first. And to a certain degree, I get where they're coming from. But what is the right thing to do? Let's get into it. I've made a table where I highlight some of the benefits really of each, and going into a pension and the tax relief and things like that you will get in there. So hopefully this will make it pretty clear. Okay, so here's the table that I've put together, and as you can see, what I've done is I've basically just taken a few different salary levels here in the UK. So £30,000 a year, £60,000 a year, or £100,000 plus. Now, by the way, although this video and information is primarily based at UK residents and investors, you can take this information and use it wherever you're at. Of course, the tax rules are going to be different, but a lot of the themes will be the same in the country that you live in, okay? But sticking with the UK for a moment, if you're on a salary of £30,000, that puts you into the basic rate tax band of 20%. Okay, that's after your first 12,500 or so, which is your personal allowance. So that means whatever money you put into your pension, if you've already paid tax on that money because it's come to you in your paycheck, then the government is going to give you pension tax relief. And therefore, you will get around 25% pension tax relief. So, simple example, if you pay £80 from your own money into your pension, you will actually get £100 put in there because the government will top it up by that additional £20. To give you that tax money back. So that's how you get your pension tax relief. If you have an employer match, and for the example here I've taken 5%, as it stands right now, the minimum employer match needs to be 3% of your basic salary, but some companies pay more than that. Check with your employer. If they're willing to pay more in, then by all means take advantage of that, okay? But I've assumed a 5% employee match here, and a mortgage return I've took at 3.5%. I know at the moment now, mortgage rates are higher, but a lot of people locked in lower rates during the COVID sell-off as well. And of course, if you make an overpayment, then what you're really saving is 3.5% or 4% or 5%, whatever your mortgage rate is, okay? And if you invested that money that you put in to your pension into a mixture of stocks and bonds, I've assumed a 6% annual return there, which is around the market average. Well, what should you do if this is kind of your setup, which I think is, probably a great many people watching this video. And then, therefore, I think you should prioritize your pension up to the employer match. After that, you could kind of do either, whichever makes you feel a bit more comfortable, okay? The key here is, if you're earning around £30,000 or so, and your employer is willing to give you 3, 4, 5% of a match, then you should absolutely be prioritizing that and taking advantage of the employer match, because you're basically doubling your money. If you put in 5%, they will put in 5% as well. And if you have additional funds, maybe you're getting a bonus, commission payment, or money coming from somewhere, rather than paying the tax on that, why not put it into your pension and get that pension tax relief? Okay? Moving on to the next band, £60,000. Now you're a higher rate taxpayer, paying up to 40% tax rate. So the pension tax relief in this case is even more generous. You get all the tax back that you would have paid coming off your paycheck. So if you were to take out your debit card or do a bank transfer into your pension account, if you put in £60, you're going to get 100 actually credited in, because the other £40 will be credited to you from the government, and that is done to incentivize you to save into your pension. All else being the same as we discussed earlier, a 5% match, 3.5% mortgage rate, and you're therefore getting a pension return of 6 to 8% on the market. Now remember, the S&P 500 has delivered around 10% average annual return over the last 100 years or so, but I'm assuming, like I said before, more of a stronger mix of stock and bonds to give you a 6 to 8% return. And in this case, absolutely strongly favors a pension contribution, because that higher tax relief that you will be getting, 40% back from your tax that you've paid off of your paycheck. If you were to take that money instead and put it into your mortgage, then what you're really saving is the interest that you would be paying on that amount of money. And if your mortgage rate is 3, 4, 5%, but yet you're getting 40% by putting it in your pension, well, I'd rather a 40% return than a 5% savings on my mortgage. Net, you're up 35%. Before you invest that money into your pension or into your stock market, where you should be getting at least 6 and maybe even up to 10% depending on your risk tolerance. So from a financial perspective, if you're earning around 60,000, then absolutely, in my view, you should be doing the pension tax relief. Now remember, one big disclaimer here, I'm not an accountant at all. I'm someone who's worked in the markets for 20 years. But these tax rates are what they are, and the numbers here are correct. But if you feel you want to explore this further and you want some advice, then I definitely recommend that you see an accountant to do so, for your own personal circumstances, of course. Okay, now let's move on to anyone who's earning 100,000 plus. This could get you further up on the additional rate taxpayer into a tax band of 45%. Therefore, if you put £55 into your pension, then you're actually going to get about £100 deposited in. Again, another great saving on tax. If you're getting your employer match, your mortgage return, of course, is 3.5% in this example, and invested at 6 to 8%, then the recommendation here absolutely is to heavily favor your pension ahead of putting extra money onto a mortgage overpayment, because there's a massive tax efficiency here. By the way, in the UK, if you're earning 100,000 up to 125,000 pounds, that is, per year, then it starts to reduce the personal allowance of 12,500. So you're actually getting into a very difficult tax trap here if you're in this band. And for that reason, in my opinion, you should absolutely be prioritizing your pension to start claiming some of that personal allowance back and getting tax relief at this higher amount, which will benefit you absolutely greatly. Those are the numbers, and that is an approach that's very pragmatic and very financially, savvy, literate, or whatever. But there's something else to consider here. And I think this is part of the reason why a lot of people choose to prioritize the mortgage first. And the reason for that tends to be an emotional one. The feeling of having a big mortgage hanging over your head is not a good one. And in fact, if you were to follow Dave Ramsey in the US, who's a financial guru like this, he always recommends that you prioritize your mortgage first in his program. Okay. And of course, the feeling of being mortgage free earlier, the feeling of having a huge debt hanging over you for 20, 30 years or so, it's not a great feeling. There's no question about that. So if you're in that situation and you're losing sleep because of your mortgage payments, you've bought maybe more than you realistically could afford, a lot of people do that as well, then you should maybe consider prioritizing your mortgage payment. But if that's not the case and you're living below your means, which is something I always recommend on this channel here, you've got a comfortable mortgage payment, then in my view, you should absolutely prioritize your pension. Get it in there, get the tax back, and let all of that money compound over the long term. You'll be absolutely thrilled that you've done so, in my opinion. Another thing to consider, if your mortgage rate is high and you got stuck when the mortgage rate shot up recently and you're up over 5%, maybe 6, perhaps even 7% on a mortgage rate, then maybe that's another reason to consider, because those are very high monthly payments that you may have. So consider that. And of course, if you're just getting very close to retirement and you still don't have your mortgage paid off, then perhaps you want to consider overpaying on your mortgage if you can do so as well, so you get that cleared out for your retirement. If you're somebody in your 20s or 30s and you've got your first property, congratulations, well done. I still think the best thing to do is put it into your pension, because you get that long-term compounding. The more that you put in now, the less you have to do later on in your investment journey. Of course, you could do a bit of a hybrid approach as well. And by that, I mean you go through and you max out your company pension contributions just to get the company match. In my example, I use 5%. And then any additional money that you have, you could save that and use that as an overpayment on your mortgage, and therefore you're getting both done. If you prioritize investing into your pension first, and then you're a 40% taxpayer or more, and you're able to reclaim the additional 20% pension tax relief, well, then the government will give that to you in your bank account later on in the year. So you'll get a lump sum of money back. And what you could do is use that as your mortgage overpayment. In fact, that's what I do. So I prioritize my pension, and I'm a 40% taxpayer, and I'll therefore get my pension tax relief at source, the basic rate of 20% into my pension. I then reclaim the additional 20% tax that I need to get back from the government through the pension tax relief. And when I get that money, I just put that as an overpayment on my mortgage. So therefore, I'm doing both. But I have always prioritized my pension contributions first. Absolutely, my company pension, I've always done it. I made sure I got that. And I've even gone above and beyond that whenever I possibly could do so. So that's my video on whether you should prioritize your mortgage payment off first through overpayments, or whether you should prioritize putting any additional money you can into your pension. You see where I stand on this, and I hope it's helped you out with your decision making and your financial journey. If you like this video, why not click on the like button to help me grow out my channel, and I can produce more content like this. If you haven't done so already, click that subscribe button. A lot of you are viewing but not subscribed to my channel. It'd be great to have you on board as a subscriber so I can produce more content as well. Leave me a comment. What do you think? Should you prioritize your mortgage, prioritize your pension? What's your opinion in all of this? And by the way, if you are investing in your own pension or your own, ISA account, tax-free savings account, and you're not sure what to do, happy to give you inspiration on what I do. My one fund portfolio, that's all I do. I keep it super simple, Warren Buffett style. I'll put a link to that video right up here. I'll see you over there. And as always, I wish you nothing but the best in your savings and investment journey.